I remove any stain in 60 seconds, and I do it the old way, the way nobody does anymore. Coffee, red wine, blood, grease, grass, ink, sweat. It doesn't matter what hit the fabric or how long it sat there. 60 seconds with what's already in your kitchen, and the stain is gone. No $40 bottle of spray. No trip to the dry cleaner. No throwing out a good shirt because somebody dripped gravy on it at Thanksgiving. The year was 1968. My grandmother stood at a porcelain sink in a small house in Ohio, with a cake of soap in one hand and a cast iron kettle of hot water in the other, and she pulled a beet stain out of a white tablecloth in less time than it takes to boil an egg. She learned it from her own mother, who learned it in a farmhouse kitchen during the Depression. Back when you did not throw away a tablecloth, you could not. So the women of that generation figured out how to save it instead. Here's the thing the stain remover companies will never tell you. A stain is not a mystery. It is a chemistry problem, and every chemistry problem has an answer. There are exactly 4 kinds of stains in this world, and once you know which kind you're looking at, the fix takes seconds. The bottle on the store shelf wants you to believe every stain is different and special, and requires their particular formula. That's the racket. 1 bottle for grease, 1 for wine, 1 for pets, 1 for oxygen power, all of it the same few cents of cleaner stirred into a jug of water and sold back to you for $6. Today I'm going to walk you through the whole method, stain by stain, the same way it was taught to me at that kitchen table. Stay until the end, because the very last one is the trick the dry cleaners hope you never learn, and it pulls out the stain they charge the most to handle. And the first one I'm about to show you still works on a stain most people throw the whole garment away for. If you still trust the old ways over the bright labels on the store shelf, do me a favor and subscribe, and tap that notification bell so the next one finds you. Now let me show you how it's done. Before we start, you have to understand the one rule that makes all of this work, because everybody breaks it and everybody pays for it. The rule is this: cold water first, always, never hot, not at the start. Hot water is what sets a stain permanent into the fibers. My grandmother used to say hot water cooks a stain right into the cloth the same way it cooks an egg white from clear to solid. And once it's cooked, it's married to that fabric for life. The protein stains, the blood, the egg, the milk, the sweat, those turn to glue the second they feel heat. So you start cold every single time, and you only bring the heat in later, and only on the right kind of stain. Get that one rule wrong, and nothing else I tell you will save the shirt. Now the 4 kinds of stains. Write this down if you have a pencil near you. The first kind is protein: blood, egg, milk, sweat, anything that came out of a living body. The second kind is tannin: coffee, tea, red wine, fruit juice, anything dark that grew on a plant. The third kind is grease: butter, salad oil, gravy, lipstick, motor oil off a husband's work shirt. And the fourth kind is dye: grass, ink, mustard, the hard ones, the ones that actually stain the fiber a new color. 4 families. Every stain on earth belongs to one of them, and each family has its own enemy that breaks it apart. Match the right enemy to the right family, and the stain doesn't stand a chance. Let me start with the protein stains, because those are the ones people ruin the fastest by reaching for the wrong thing. Take blood. A drop of blood on a white sheet sends most people straight to the hottest water in the house, and that is exactly how you make it permanent. The old way is the opposite: cold water and plain salt. A spoonful of table salt worked into a paste with cold water pressed into the spot, and the salt draws the protein up and out of the weave before it can bind. My grandmother kept a salt cellar on the windowsill above the sink for exactly this, not for cooking, for blood. A skinned knee, a nosebleed, a nick from the kitchen knife. Cold salt water inside the first minute, and that sheet came out white. She never lost a sheet to blood in 50 years. Egg and milk and any dairy spill, same family, same fix. Cold water, a little salt, and patience for 60 seconds while the protein lets go. Sweat stains under the arms of a white shirt, the yellow that builds up and ruins a good collar. That's protein too. And the enemy there is a paste of baking soda and cold water left to sit while the box does the work. The detergent companies sell a special spray for underarm stains. It's baking soda. You already own it. Now we move to the second family, the tannin stains. And this is where most of the everyday damage happens, because this is coffee and wine and tea, the things we spill the most. Coffee on a tablecloth, the classic. The old way does not touch soap at first, and here's why that matters. Soap on a fresh tannin stain can actually set it, lock it in, the same mistake as hot water on blood, so you skip the soap. You stretch the stained cloth tight over the mouth of a bowl, you pull it taut like a drum, and you pour cold water through it from a height. The force of the water passing through the fibers carries the coffee out the backside instead of spreading it. 60 seconds of that and a fresh coffee stain is simply gone, rinsed clean out the bottom. My grandmother did this with the kettle held up high over the sink, and the children used to gather around to watch the brown disappear like a magic trick. Red wine is the one everybody panics over, the dinner party disaster, and the old way handles it with two things sitting right on your table. Salt first, immediately, a thick mound of it poured straight onto the wet wine. The salt pulls the red up out of the cloth and turns pink while it does it, so you can watch it working. Then, once the salt has drunk up what it can, you pour white wine over the spot. White wine neutralizes the red. It sounds backward, fighting wine with wine, but the women at every dinner table for 100 years knew it, and it works. Salt, then white wine, then a cold rinse. The dry cleaner charges $15 to do what a salt shaker does for free. Tea and fruit juice and berry stains, all tannin, all the same treatment. Cold water, no soap to start, and if it's stubborn, the secret weapon is plain white vinegar. A splash of vinegar breaks the tannin apart at the chemical level, and the stain releases. One bottle of vinegar from the bottom shelf of the grocery store handles every tannin stain in your house for about $2 a year. If this is already saving a shirt you'd have thrown out, leave a like so more folks find it. And let's keep going, because the next family is the greasy one, and that one trips up everybody. Grease is the family people get most wrong because they attack it with water, and grease and water want nothing to do with each other. You have seen this in your own kitchen sink. Oil beads up and floats. Water alone will never lift a grease stain, so the old way doesn't fight it with water at all. The old way uses a dry powder to drink the oil up first before water ever enters the picture. I hope these old ways save your favorite linens just like they saved mine. I'll see you in part 4, where we'll tackle the greasy family. Here is the trick. A fresh grease stain, gravy on a tie, salad oil on a blouse, butter on a sleeve. You bury it in powder. Cornstarch from the baking cabinet, or plain talcum, or even a fistful of flour in a pinch. You mound it right over the grease, and you press it in with your fingers, and you walk away for the rest of the minute. The powder's thirsty. It pulls the oil straight up out of the fabric and into itself. You brush the powder off, and most of the grease comes with it. Whatever's left, now and only now, you hit with a little dish soap worked and gentle. Because dish soap was built to cut grease off of dishes, and it cuts it off cloth the very same way. Powder first to lift it, then soap to finish it, 60 seconds, and the gravy's gone. Lipstick, makeup, motor oil off a work shirt, all grease family, all the same answer. Powder to draw it up, dish soap to clear the rest. My grandmother kept a little tin of cornstarch on the laundry shelf right next to the soap, lid loose for a quick reach. Because in a house full of children and one man who worked with his hands, grease was a daily visitor, and she was ready for it every time. Now the fourth family, the dye stains, and I'll be straight with you the way I promised at the start. These are the hard ones. Grass on the knees of a boy's trousers, ink from a pen that burst in a pocket, mustard from a ballpark hot dog. These actually dyed the fiber a new color, so they fight the hardest. But the old way still wins, it just asks for one extra step. Grass stains break apart with vinegar, same as the tannins, because grass is partly tannin too. But the real old secret for grass, the one nobody does anymore, is a dab of plain rubbing alcohol worked into the green before it ever sees water. The alcohol dissolves the chlorophyll, the green pigment lifts, and then a cold rinse carries it away. Ink is the same enemy, the same answer. Rubbing alcohol on a cotton rag, blotted, never rubbed, against the back of the ink stain so it pushes the ink out the way it came in instead of driving it deeper. Blot, don't rub. That is the whole difference between saving the shirt and ruining it. Mustard, the worst of the dye family, the one that laughs at most store sprays. The old way soaks it in cold water, treats it with vinegar, and then, if it still won't quit, lays the garment flat in the sunshine. Plain sunlight is a bleach the good Lord gives away for free, and it breaks down the yellow turmeric in mustard the way no bottle on the shelf can. A morning on the clothesline in direct sun, and the last of the mustard fades out of the cloth. Now, before I give you the last one, the dry cleaner stain, let me tell you the principle that ties every bit of this together, because once you have it, you'll never need a chart again. Cold water and salt for the proteins, vinegar for the tannins, powder and dish soap for the grease, alcohol and sunshine for the dyes. 4 families, 4 enemies, and a kitchen that already holds every one of them. You will never again stand in the cleaning aisle reading the back of a $6 bottle because you already own the whole shelf and it costs you pennies. And here is the one the dry cleaners hope you never learn, the old way of handling the stain that's already old. The set-in stain, the one that dried days ago, the one everybody says is hopeless. The dry cleaner charges the most for this one because everybody believes it cannot be done at home. It can. You make a poultice. A thick paste of baking soda and white vinegar mixed right on the spot so it foams. And you lay it over the old stain like a bandage and you leave it. Not 60 seconds for this one. This one needs an hour, sometimes a night. The foam works down into the dried-in stain and lifts it back up to the surface where a cold rinse can finally carry it off. An old grease ring, a coffee stain that went through the dryer, a wine stain from last Christmas, the poultice pulls them up out of fibers everyone gave up on. My grandmother saved a wedding tablecloth this way that had a 10-year-old stain ground into it, and it came out white enough to use again. She passed in her 90s in the same little house with that same salt cellar still on the windowsill above the sink. And she left behind a tin of cornstarch, a bottle of vinegar, and a head full of knowledge that the bright labels spent 60 years trying to make us forget. None of this is complicated. None of it is expensive. It is just the old way, the way that worked before somebody decided a stain should cost you $6 to remove instead of 6 cents. 4 families, 4 enemies, 60 seconds. That's the whole secret, and now it's yours, passed down the way it was always meant to travel, from one kitchen table to the next. That's the whole secret, and now it's yours, passed down the way it was always meant to travel, from one kitchen table to the next. If this brought back a memory of your own mother or grandmother saving a shirt everyone else had given up on, I would love to hear about it. And if the old ways still mean something to you, subscribe, tap that notification bell, and leave a like before you go. So the next person who's about to throw out a good shirt finds this in time. The bottle is mostly water. The work is in the hands. A clean shirt is a clean shirt, no matter what saved it.